The whole challenge of Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur this year that I put to myself and to you is confront the blind spots. Go exploring into your heart and discover things you never knew before. Find things you didn't know were lurking in the darkness there, and bring them to the surface and bring them to the light and shine the light on them. I've been asked to be makdish the shir to the refuah of Matan Raphael Nathanael ben Esther, who's very, very ill. Ilan's opening words were really interesting because I was going to tell you that this is quite a personal shir. I'm just going to talk to you about what I feel this particular Yom Tov and where I'm at this particular Yom Tov. And usually I find that where I'm at, a lot of other people are at as well, because we're all affected by the same things. We're living in the same world. We're one community of people, even those who are far from this particular location. Each year people deal with specific issues, and I thought I would just share with you where I'm at and what I'm concerned about, and because I'm having a bit of a challenge with something. And one of the things I'm having a challenge with is something that Ilan really mentioned, and that is same old. I'm getting a bit bored of Rosh Hashana. I got to be honest. It comes, I don't get all excited. I don't. Wish I did, but I don't. I get excited with Sukkot. I get excited, even Yom Kippur I get excited about. I get excited with Pesach. I get excited with Shavuos. Pesach, we're preparing new Sidorim, new ideas for the Seder. Shavuos, new Torah for the Tikkun Leil. Sukkot, the sukkah will be put up in a different way. It will be decorated different. The meals will be different. The people at the table will be different. Yom Kippur is a thing all of its own. At Rosh Hashana, when I sit down and I start thinking about Rosh Hashana, my immediate response is same old, saying sorry for the same old things. Year after year after year. We get all upset, Elul comes, we start saying slichus, we start getting all self-introspective, we look at our lives, we make a list, sometimes a mental list or a physical list of the things we want to focus on. Comes Rosh Hashana, we do tshuva, says you made tshuva, we do tshuva, Yom Kippur, we do tshuva, and Motzei Yom Kippur, we're back to the same routines we were before. And what's it all about? What does it really accomplish? And if it doesn't accomplish a whole lot, what is it for? I quoted to you this morning in the Matmonim shir, the Chovos HaLevavos, that says all the mitzvahs are there to impact us internally, our internal place, our interior places. That's what counts. Because when we change inside, everything else changes. When we don't change inside, nothing changes. We just go through the motions. So everything, all the mitzvahs, the Chovos HaLevavos says all the mitzvahs are intended to change who we are inside. And if Rosh Hashanah comes and goes, and we're back to where we were before, what is the point really? What are we doing? So that's something that's troubling me. There's another thing that's troubling me, which I'm going to come to in a moment. We'll learn a Rambam and a Zohar, and from that I'll articulate what's troubling me with the help of a piece from the Shari Tshuva. There's a posuk in the Torah that's actually dealing with a situation where somebody has been given money or an object in trust and denies that he's been given the object, and so he doesn't return it to the owner. He takes an oath that he doesn't have the object, and later on he changes his mind. He wants to do tshuva. That's one of the sources of the concept of tshuva, that a man regrets having told a lie and he wants to come clean. And in Parshas Naso, Ish or Isha asher yasu mikol chatot ha'adam, but the way the posuk is worded is as if it's not talking only about that particular case of somebody denying something given to him in trust. Asher yasu mikol chatot ha'adam, somebody who does any sin that a person could possibly do. And then the next posuk is vehitvadu et chatatam, they shall admit, they shall confess their sin. Vehitvadu. Asher asu v'heshiv et hashamo b'rosho, and then they pay back the item that they stole. V'chamishato yosef alav, plus an extra 20%. V'natan asher hasham lo, and he gives it back to the person from whom he stole it. But that wording of mikol chatot ha'adam seems to imply something more generic than just that specific case of theft of something given in trust. Says the Rambam, as he opens Hilchot Tshuva, Kol mitzvot sheba Torah bein aseh, bein lo ta'aseh, all the mitzvahs of the Torah, mitzvahs aseh or mitzvahs lo ta'aseh. Im avar adam al achat mehen, bein b'zadon, bein bishgaga. If anybody who was over, transgressed any one of those many mitzvot, whether deliberately or by mistake, kesheyaseh teshuvah v'yashuv michatato. When he has within him this feeling of, I'm sorry I did it, I would like to do tshuva, like this person in the posuk. I denied having the money that was given to me, and I regret having denied it. When you want to do tshuva, chayav lihitvadot lifnei hakel baruch hu. You've got to do vidui. You've got to say it out. Shneimar, because it says, and he brings the posuk, Isho isha ki yasu v'yitvadu et chatatam asher asu ze vidui dvarim, vidui ze mitzvah taseh. This mitzvah of articulating your confession is a positive mitzvah in the Torah. Ketzad mitvadin, how do you do it? Omer, ana Hashem chatati, aviti, pashati lefanecha. Hashem, I've done these averas, ve'asiti kach v'kach, and I did such and such. It doesn't just help to say Hashem, that's the vidui. That's just a formula. And as the Chavis Alvova says, our formulas, our practices are designed to affect us internally. So that Hashem Bagadnu is meant to trigger off the real identification of the Avera inside. Asiti kach v'kach. And even those of us who say the long version of it in the Chaya Odom or in the back of the modern Sidurim, you've got the breakdown of each of them with all the Averot that go through in the Aleph Beis, what's Anda Shamdu, what's Bagadnu, what's Gazan. So now that's become the formula. It used to be there was a short formula. Then the Art Scroll published the long formula. Everybody thought, now I understand what Hashamdu Bagadnu is. It became meaningful. So now the long formula has become the formula. And we better go through the long formula instead of the short. It's still formulaic Judaism. It still doesn't mean anything. What's supposed to happen is that as you're thinking about it, you think, this thing I did 8 months ago, I've just suddenly remembered it. I've just thought of it. I need to do tshuva for it. It's got to come from inside, not from the pages of a siddur or the pages of a machzor. And you say, Kach v'asiti kach v'kach, I did such and such. V'arei nichamti, and I regret it. Uvoshti, and I feel shame. Doesn't help just running through the Hashamdu Bagadnus, even in the back of the Art Scroll, and you're not feeling the shame. I feel shame. B'masai ul'olam eini chozer ledavar zeh, and I undertake to the best of my ability never to do it again. I'm at that point, because if I'm not at the point where I'm willing to commit not to do it again, I'm not yet ready for tshuva. We'll have to wait for a later stage. I can only do tshuva if I've come to such a stage of regret and embarrassment that I'm willing to commit. We understand that even though one's willing to commit, it doesn't always work out that way. But at least at the time to feel so strongly about it that I'm willing to commit not to do it again. V'zeu ikaro shel vidui, and that's vidui. That's the main part of vidui, says the Rambam. And that's the mitzvah. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah, thou shalt do tshuva, but it does say that thou shalt do vidui. Thou shalt confess. The Zohar has a slightly different take on it, which is very important. And the Zohar asks another question, which is also troubling me. There are three things that trouble me. The one is same old. The second that troubles me is the Zohar's question, and that is, really, a vidui can fix all the wrongdoing? You've caused damage in the world. What an avera does when one does something wrong, God forbid, one goes against the Torah, one commits an avera, the damage we do to our own neshamas, the damage we do to our connection to Hashem, we sever that connection. That's damage. What happens in our building, the Kablan in the neighboring building severed the optical fiber cable. He's done it a few times. And it's chaotic when it happens. Everything comes to a standstill. You can't be in touch. Everything stops. You're disconnected from the world. Got to get the people to come in and fix it. It takes time. When we do an avera, we cut the fiber optics. Not just of our own connection to our godly Wi-Fi, but everybody's system is damaged by that when we cut the fiber optic cable. And what, you can just come along and say a vidui and it gets fixed? The Kabbalan didn't even try and say a vidui, but imagine he would have. Imagine if he would actually have said, Chatati, Aviti, I've done a terrible thing, I've cut the fiber optics, I'm so embarrassed, I'm so ashamed of myself, I'll never do it again. Even had he said it, what would we have said to him? And what does that help? The computer's not working. So how does vidui help? The computer's not working. So you've gone through the vidui again. How does that fix it? That's the Zohar's question. So at least I got comfort when I realized that I'm not the only one who has the question. Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yehuda avo azli me Usha lelud. Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yehuda were traveling from Usha to Lud. Usha, if it's still in the same place, is up near Haifa. And Lud, you know where Lud is. So that was a long walk down the middle of the country. Omer Rabbi Yitzchak. So Rabbi Yitzchak said to Rabbi Yehuda, Neima milin da'araisa v'nezel. Please talk some Torah while we're walking. It'll make the journey easier. Potach Rabbi Yehuda v'Omer. Rabbi Yehuda started teaching and he said, there's a pasuk in the Torah, ki yiftach ish boro, ki yichra ish boro. If a person opens or digs a pit and he causes damage, somebody's ox falls into the pit, maktiv batrei, then what does it say? Bala bor yishalem, the owner of the pit should pay. Uma al dakach man degarim la'avasha, alma b'chovoy alachat kama v'kama. If you have to pay for the damage, all you did was you opened a pit. You didn't go into somebody else's property. You didn't touch the ox. You didn't kill the ox. You made a hole in the street and the ox fell in. And yet you're responsible. You have to go and repair. You have to go and pay and compensate the owner, even though you didn't have anything directly to do with it. It says Rav Yehuda, in that case, how much worse is it when you cut the fiber optics of the world, when a person does an avera and messes up with the system, with Hashem's system of managing the world? If the whole management system of the world is broken down and you broke it, or I broke it, we broke it, how does that get fixed? I'm amazed. How does it work that tshuva can fix it? As it says, Ish or Isha ki yasu v'hitvadu et chatatam v'heshiv. The Zohar is learning this pasuk very interestingly. The Zohar is learning it, and maybe the Rambam is learning it the same way. V'hitvadu et chatatam. If a man or a woman does one of these terrible things, and they confess their sins, asher asu, v'heshiv, pause, then tshuva will have been done. That's how the Zohar is learning it. So you see that doing vidui results in tshuva. The Rambam words it a little bit differently. The Rambam says when you want to do tshuva, the way to do it is vidui. The Zohar seems to learn it when you've done vidui, tshuva is the outcome. You don't do tshuva, you do vidui, you confess. Once you've confessed, tshuva is the result. Tshuva is the healing process. Tshuva is the repair process. And the repair follows the confession. And avadai the mahanyelhu begin the ovid tshuva ki biyochelu ovid le'amamish. But you see, it does work. When a person's done tshuva, it fixes things. What's been damaged in the higher worlds gets fixed with tshuva. As it says, Isho Isha ki yasu v'yitvadu et chatatam vehishiv u'tshuva itkin kala itkin la'ela itkin letatoi itkin legrame itkin lechol alma. That the tshuva fixes upstairs, it fixes downstairs, it fixes for you, it fixes for everybody else. It's a remarkable tool. It actually repairs the damage. Not only does one go through personal tshuva in the sense that Hashem forgives one, hopefully, but that the tshuva actually repairs the damage that has been done through the avera that we've caused. That's how the Zohar learns it. And this idea of vidui is so important because although we're learning about the Rambam talks about you've got to be misvadeh to the Ribbono Shel Olam, but the Torah is talking about it specifically a ben adam lechavero, an interpersonal avero. And so the whole idea of vidui applies by interpersonal averos as well. In fact, as we know, the Rambam paskins Yom Kippur doesn't help for interpersonal averos. You've got to do your own tshuva with the person. You can't just do tshuva to Hashem for interpersonal averos. Hashem, you can do tshuva for the things you did wrong to Hashem in your man-God relationship. But in your interpersonal relationships, you've got to do tshuva with the other person. So the same principles apply. When you do tshuva with the other person, how do you do it? Exactly the same way. When a person wants to do tshuva, chayav lehitvadot. You've got to do vidui. And what is vidui? Aviti pashati lefanecha va'asiti kach v'kach. Vidui is not, if I did anything wrong to you this year, please forgive me. That's not vidui. That's not tshuva. That's a formula. That's like, Hashem Nebagana Gazal Nedibana, if I did anything wrong for you, please forgive me. Yes, Mechila, please ask Mechila. If I did anything wrong, Mechila. It's all formulas. It's like AI, it's like ChatGPT talking to another ChatGPT. There's nothing human in it. Human means I'm devastated because I did something or I said something that could have hurt you or damaged you. And as I think about it, I don't know what came over me in the moment, and I feel incredibly embarrassed and regretful that I did that. Please forgive me. That's different. That's a vidui. And as the Zohar and possibly the Rambam learns the pasuk v'yitvadu et chatatam asher asu v'heshiv, says the Zohar, and that returns the world to where it was. That returns the relationship to where it was. Because that's what tshuva means, getting back to where it was before you messed it up. Fixing the fiber optic cable so you can get back onto your computer again. And that's what tshuva means. Tshuva is the outcome. Tshuva is the repair. Tshuva is the healing. But the healing comes from the vidui, not the other way around. Because once one is vidui, and that's an amazing power that a person has and a person can have, to be able to acknowledge having done something wrong and begin a healing process. I was talking to my wife today about something that I did wrong unintentionally to somebody many, many years ago. And just really realized today how painful it must have been for the other person. I don't even know if the other person is aware of it. I certainly wasn't aware of it at the time. And my wife said, but then call him up and tell him that. And I said, no, that's just going to cause that's just going to bring up the pain again. Why would one stir up something which is long forgotten? And she said, no, that starts the healing. That's how you heal. That's how you rebuild intimacy. That's how you rebuild connection. And I thought to myself, my goodness, I'm the one who's supposed to be getting up and saying the shir. You see, I said to somebody, you gave me the shir, and then I just read it. And it was only today. These things happen very often. You're working on something, and then a real life example comes, and you catch yourself in the moment not doing the very thing you're planning to speak about. It's that, as hard as vidui is. Of course it's hard. That's why it works. If it was just a formula, it wouldn't work, and it doesn't work. The fact is, when somebody says, you meichel me, yes, I meichel you, 5 years later, do you still not bear a grudge against that person because what he did to you? I bet you've been meichel already. Well, it wasn't really a mechila. You can't be meichel somebody, you can't forgive somebody if you don't feel there's remorse. It's not humanly possible. You can't forgive somebody if somebody hasn't gone through the discomfort of confronting the wrongdoing with themselves and with you. It's just formulas. And so, as uncomfortable as vidui is, it's uncomfortable when we say it to Hashem, if we really feel what we're saying, and it's possibly even more uncomfortable when we confront another human being and say, I've got to have a difficult conversation with you. There's something I've got to talk to you about. Do you have a few moments? Sit down, you talk properly. It's not something you do on one foot running in and out of shul, or Erev Rosh Hashana after HaTorah's Nedarim, or on Kol Nidre night. That's not the time to do it. The time to do it is now. This is the time to do it. But my question then is, my second question is, really, and vidui just does it? I understand vidui is hard, it's difficult, it's confrontation, but does that really do the repair and do the healing? And my third question is the most disturbing question of all that I've been worrying about for some months now. And that is, we only do vidui for the things that we know we did wrong. How many things do you think we might have done wrong that we don't know about? I'm not even talking about the things we knew about and forgot. That's a whole category. But what about the things we weren't even aware of, we weren't even conscious of? How do you do vidui? If the whole tshuva process, if the repair process requires vidui, requires confronting it and articulating it, whether to another person or to Hashem, what about the things we don't know? And yes, we say again, we say in the Tefillah Zakah, and we say in Yom Kippur, the Hagluyim lefanecha v'she'inam gluyim lefanecha, the things that you know about, the things that I know about, the things that I don't know about, you know about it, Hashem, so please forgive me. That's formulas. It's all formulas. And yeah, you have to say the formulas. It's tefillah, like all the mitzvahs, as the Chodesh HaLevavot says, you've got to do the physical mitzvah, but don't stop there. The purpose is to get to your heart. And just to go through the formulas, Hashem, there are a whole lot of things I don't remember, but you know what they are, so just check them off as well. While you're about them, wipe them off as well. Surely that doesn't work. Surely we have to remember these things. And what do we do about the things we don't remember? And that brought me to a whole lot of thinking about our blind spots. The things we just don't know about, the things we just don't see, the things we're not aware of, that we're doing, that other people, how blind are we to situations? And how do we go into a Rosh Hashana and a Yom Kippur with blind spots and expect to come out on the other side different? Blind spots mean I only see what I see, which is the same things I saw last year and the year before. That's why we get stuck in same old, because we come into Yom Tov with all the same blind spots. So unless we're willing to work on our blind spots, what's the point of the tshuva? We've done it already. The whole challenge of Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur this year that I put to myself and to you is confront the blind spots. Go exploring into your heart and discover things you never knew before. Find things you didn't know were lurking in the darkness there, and bring them to the surface and bring them to the light and shine the light on them. And do a vidui for those things, for things you haven't thought about for decades. And what about them? How does one deal with that? Shlomo HaMelech says, Ra'iti ish chacham be'einav. I've seen a person who is smart in his own eyes. Have you ever seen such people? People who think they're smart. Do you know such people? Of course, we all know such people. And most of us are one of them. Tikva likesil mimenu, says Shlomo HaMelech. A fool has greater opportunity than that wise person. Even a chacham. And the Gemara says a chacham is gadol me'anovi, that a chacham, a wise person, is greater than a prophet even. But says Sefer Mishlei, says Shlomo HaMelech, but if you're a chacham ba'enov, if you think you're a clever, smart person, then an idiot is going to become greater than you. Because this has not got to do with smarts, this has got to do with blind spots. And with blind spots, you can't become great. With blind spots, you can't grow. Because you don't know what you don't know. All you know is what you know. And what you know is very, very limited. To be able to know what you don't know, you've got to deal and work with the blind spots, and that's much harder. Says the Malbim, Ki liksil yesh yoter tikva min hachacham be'einav. A fool has more hope than a person who's smart in his own eyes. Ki aksil nimshach achar ta'avotav. Because why does aksil do wrong? A foolish person. Why does he do wrong? He sits in shul on Rosh Hashana and says, oh yeah, I did this, I did that. Why did you do it? He knows that there's a Torah, he knows there are mitzvahs, he knows what he's supposed to be doing, but he's got taivas, he's got passions, he's got desires, he's not such a big Yoresh Shamayim, and he does Averis. For him there's hope. There's hope when he gets older and more mature, or very much older and weaker. He won't have such powerful passions, and he'll look back at his life and he'll say, oh my goodness, what have I done? What have I spent my life chasing? What have I spent my life on? Maybe this is time to take a reckoning and to redirect my life. Even a foolish person will get to that point. But this person who's smart in his own eyes believes what he's doing is right. And he deliberately disagrees with wisdom, not because of passion, because he thinks his corrupt way is the right way, is according to wisdom and according to chokhmah. And this person has no hope. And so one has to teach such a person that his way is not the appropriate way, is not the right way. So as the Malbim explains it, if somebody does Averas because of a Yetzer Hara, they just have a passion, they have a desire, they'll come to it. Eventually they'll come to it. Life will teach them lessons. They will discover their own lessons. They'll come to a point of realizing that they've been chasing the wrong things in life, and they'll make the necessary modifications. It's got nothing to do with intelligence. It's just life experience and openness. The willingness to be open to error. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think. Maybe the way I ran my life wasn't the best way I possibly could have run it. That's all we need. Once you've got that, then you're open to tshuva, then you're open to all sorts of possibilities. Says Rabbi Yonah in the Shari Tshuva, he's talking about the kat haletzim. Talks about different categories of people who do wrong, and one of them is the kat haletzim, the group of cynics. And he's got a big section on the cynics, and he divides them into 5 categories. And on the 3rd category, he says that's mi shelo'eg tamid lidvarim ulefu'ulot ve'in da'ato lahavzot ba'aleihem. A person who always has a judgmental comment about everything and everyone. Why there's something wrong with everything and everyone. His intention is not to bring them down. His intention is not to disgrace them or to embarrass them. It's just, he's always got to come, whatever you tell him, he's got something to say about why it's not so great. Ach marchik hadvarim she'ein laharchikam. He pushes away things that don't need to be pushed away. Maybe it's not your particular style. Maybe it's not your particular thing. But it doesn't have to be diminished. It doesn't have to be devalued and trivialized. Some people like a certain style of learning. It's not your style. It doesn't matter. You don't have to trivialize. You don't have to diminish it. Some people like sports. Other people like music. Other people like theater. It's okay. Each person what they want. You don't have to trivialize it. And as a result of that, sometimes there's some really good things about the things he's diminishing, the very things that he's trivializing. Sometimes they're good things about it, and he doesn't get the benefits of that. What brings the cynic to this judgmentalism, to the sense of always having something negative to say about everything? Chacham be'einav, a particular midah, a particular characteristic called Chacham be'einav, wise in his own eyes. That's the midah of cynicism. The person who is so smart that finds something wrong with everything because he's better than anyone. This group doesn't even accept rebuke. You can't even give mussar to this group. As it says, if you give mussar to this group of people, they hate you for it. And the reason this group cannot listen to Musar is because what makes a person a cynic? What makes a person a cynic is because you think you're better than the other. You think you can see the fault in everything because you're so smart. That's what a cynic is. A cynic simply exposes his own arrogance. A person who's super judgmental simply exposes his own arrogance. And this has taken such control over him to the point where he mocks and he's cynical about the viewpoints of other people. And we're living in this in such a time. We see what's going on in the world, what's going on here in Israel, what's going on in the United States and the rest of the world. This intolerance for another viewpoint. No matter whether you're on the right or you're on the left, this intolerance of another viewpoint. And with the tragic assassination of Charlie Kirk, you've seen all the outpouring of what he stood for and the anger at the intolerance of different views. The world is busy with that right now. Erev Rosh Hashana, the topic that the world is busy with right now is Chacham be'einav. Everybody's convinced they're right. The left is right, the right is wrong. The right believes the right is right and the left is wrong. The religious are right and the irreligious are wrong. The Haredim are right and the non-Haredim are wrong. Or the non-Haredim are right and it's about right and wrong. It's not about I have a viewpoint and maybe you have a different one. And maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe I'm not as right as I think I am. That's what the world's busy with, Erev Rosh Hashana. So you know what the theme for Rosh Hashana needs to be. Rabbis are sitting in their studies trying to figure out, I hope at least that, trying to figure out a theme for Rosh Hashana to take their kehillas through a process of thinking and feeling over the Yomim No'roim. This year you don't have to think very far, and most years it's like that. You just look in the world and connect with the zeitgeist, just connect with what's happening in the world at the moment. What's happening with the world at the moment is the recognition, a kind of a vidui. Some people are not a self-vidui, they're doing vidui for the other side. But some people not. There's a vidui, there's a questioning. Have we lost it? Have we lost the ability to debate? Have we lost the ability to have conversation? Have we lost the ability to respect somebody different from us? And there are many reasons for it. And one of the big ones, of course, is social media and the fact that we are being exposed more and more just to the people who think like us and just to the viewpoints that have our viewpoint. I've said to many of you before, it's important not to rely on social media for your news and your information about what's happening in the world, but to subscribe to reliable sources of information. And it's important to subscribe to opposite sides. Don't try and find a neutral one in the middle, because that will be sheker, that will be full of lies. What you want to do is you want to subscribe to a paper on the right, you want to subscribe to a paper on the left, and you want to hear the different views. That's what living in the world means. It doesn't mean shutting yourself down in one echo chamber of hearing your own voice echo back to you all the time, your own opinions, your own voice, everything you think. So it makes you feel good because you keep on hearing that you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. That's how social media is constructed, and that's how the news media are now constructed, to make sure that what you're hearing are the things that tell you you're right. How about hearing things that say maybe you're wrong? And how about getting into conversation with that? We've lost that ability. We don't even know how to have those conversations. And that's a Ra'iti ish chacham be'inav tikva liksil mimenu. This is a midah, says the Shari Tshuva, she'ein la tikva. There is no hope for an individual or a society that is built on the belief that they are always right and the other is always wrong. And that's what I challenge you to this Rosh Hashana. To ask yourself, how often do I feel that I'm right and they're wrong? On what issues do I feel that? Whether it's in relationships. My wife is wrong, I'm right. My child is wrong, I'm right. My husband's wrong, I'm right. How often do we find ourselves being entrapped into that position of I'm right, they are wrong, or I am right, you are wrong, and shutting ourselves into our own echo chambers of madness? That's the problem with a lunatic asylum, is lunacy is normal. You walk around and you think that's the normal thing because everybody's like you. We're living in a world where we think everybody's like us. And we're not willing to understand the differences between us and the people around us. It's interesting, only a few days ago, long after I decided to talk on this topic and long after I've been thinking about all of this and how to deal with it, one of the members of my team, of my company in the United States, who's a wonderful thinker and psychologist and coach, wrote a little piece in LinkedIn. And when he writes poetry. He doesn't write in prose. And I want to read to you from this poem that he wrote only a few days ago. And each line of it needs reflection. They're failing because of what they can't see. When you see somebody failing, it's because of what they can't see. Because if they saw it, they wouldn't fail. Just that line alone is so beautiful. Certainty is often just blindness in disguise. When you're certain, just check with yourself. Are you certain or are you blind? Because those two ideas are very close. Are you sure you're right? You sure they're wrong? Yes, I'm sure I'm right. I'm sure you're blind. I'm sure you haven't thought carefully enough. We cling to what feels solid. Past success, familiar strategies, best practices. But in doing so, we trap ourselves in shrinking frames. Our frames get thinner and thinner and narrower. As R.D. Laing reminded us, he was a Scottish psychiatrist, the range of what we think and do is limited by what we fail to notice. Now, those of you who've been on safari, who've been to the game reserves in Africa, you know what it is. You can drive through the whole game reserve and see nothing. Just fail to notice because you're on your phone, because you're speaking to the people in your car, because you're reading something, because your mind's a million miles away. And sometimes you've just got to stop the car at a waterhole, open the windows, turn off the engine, and just sit. And you start seeing things. You start hearing birds. You start seeing movement in the bushes. An animal walks out to drink. They were there all the time. We just failed to notice. And our experience of the world is limited by what we fail to notice. The danger isn't in failing. The danger is in failing to notice that we're failing to notice. We're not noticing what our wives or husbands are thinking and feeling. We're not noticing what our children are doing. We're not noticing what we're feeling. The danger is in failing to notice that we're failing to notice. So here's the uncomfortable question. How would you know if you were blind to what really matters? How would you even know that? Maybe there's something that really matters that you're not seeing. You go to the game reserve to see animals. Maybe there's a lion right next to the it really matters. You really want to see a lion, but you haven't noticed it. And how many times does that happen in life? How many times does that happen every day? As we're walking in the street, as we're listening to something, reading something, talking to somebody. How does it matter? How would you know if you were blind to what really matters? Innovation doesn't start with certainty. It starts with humility, curiosity, and the audacity to ask a better question. And he's talking about this in life. It applies also in learning, doesn't it? That's the key to learning, to be humble, curious, and have the audacity to ask a better question. That's how we learn Torah. That's how we learn Gemara. That's what the art of learning is all about. And that's an art that we want to apply in our lives. We learn in order to be better people. We don't learn just to learn. We learn to be better people. We learn to master this skill of being humble, curious, and audacious enough to ask a better question. And so I'm going to give you and myself, I'm just sharing with you what I'm taking on myself, 5 questions to deal with between now and Yom Kippur. The first question is, have I asked myself a better question today? What have you been troubled? Have you asked yourself a good question today? Or anybody, have you asked anybody? Have you read something and paused and reflected and asked a really good question that makes you stop and think? When somebody said something to you, have you asked them a question that makes them stop and think? Have you looked into yourself? Have we looked into ourselves and asked ourselves questions about ourselves that make us stop and think? Number 2, how could I be wrong in the things I'm most certain about? That's a fascinating exercise. Write down things you're very certain about, things you're sure about, things you would argue, things you would take a stand on, things you're sure about. And don't be afraid to put simple things there. How could you be wrong? Is it possible? Is it possible I'm wrong? And what would that look like? In what ways might I be wrong? What about the important people in my life might I not be seeing? Husband or wife, my children, my parents, my friends. What might I not be seeing? Just take one relationship at a time. Just focus, take the time out. Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur needs time. You can't go rushing about in Elul and rushing into Shul on Rosh Hashana and then expect everything to change on Rosh Hashana and to come out transformed. And then to rush again during the Aseret Yemei Tshuva and to rush into Yom Kippur and expect everything to be transformed. It needs time. This is a human being you're talking about. You're organic. You're not digital. It takes time. Just take one relationship at a time and ask yourself, what about this person might I not be seeing? Maybe, you're not for sure. Just, is there possibly something I'm not noticing about them? Good or bad? What might others see in or about me that I'm not seeing? Is it possible that other people see something about me that I'm not seeing? And you know very well what the answer is. And the tragedy is that people won't tell you that. Nobody's going to come and say, I see something that you're probably not seeing. Occasionally, somebody might come to you and say, your collar's not right, or there's a bit of lettuce in your teeth. And you're very grateful to the person. You're very thankful. They see something you can't see. But there are many others we see about each other that they can't see. But it's uncomfortable for us to let them know, this is what I see, this is how I experience you. I'm sure you're not aware of it. But what a gift that is, to be shared with by somebody else, to say, there's something I see in you. Maybe it's good, it doesn't have to be negative. I see a greatness in you that I don't think you see. I see kindness in you that I don't think you see. I see brilliance in you that I don't know if you see. That's what a teacher needs to be doing with students all the time. And sometimes it's a criticism, sometimes it's mussar. There's something I see, you might not be seeing it. And then when you've gone through those 4, the 5th one, and that's the 5th one you can ask in Shul on Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur. What might Hashem see in or about me that I'm not seeing? And again, good or bad, does Hashem see greatness in me that I'm missing? It's not only about negative things. Does Hashem see weaknesses in me that I'm missing? Does Hashem see opportunities for me to improve myself that I'm not seeing? It's all about what am I not seeing. So my challenge to you this Rosh Hashanah to make it different, as Ilan said in the beginning, and as I said, it shouldn't be same old, is can vidui change everything? Yes. Something as simple, uncomfortable, but as simple as vidui, as confession, can change everything. It can make next year completely different from any previous year, provided the things we do vidui for this year are things we've never done vidui for before, are the things that we haven't even seen before, the things we didn't notice before. Because this Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we're going to challenge ourselves to notice what we have been failing to notice. To understand that our failures is, no, we're not doing vidui for our failures, Hashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibanu Doife, and then we're done. No. We're stopping to pause and saying, have we failed to notice what we're failing to notice? And if so, what are some of those things? Because those are the things to focus on for Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. Those are the things to do vidui on. Those are the things to work on. And what a difference that could make, even if it's just one thing. If you just find one thing you never noticed about yourself or your loved ones or Hashem. One thing you never noticed about the Torah, one thing you never noticed about Eretz Yisrael, one thing you never noticed about your community. Even if it's just one thing and you do a vidui about that, how transformative could that be? And if there are a whole bunch of things that we really notice for the first time, but to notice we need humility, curiosity, and the audacity to ask a better question. 5 better questions. Have I asked myself a better question today? How could I be wrong in the things I'm most certain about? What about the important people in my life might I not be seeing? What might others see in or about me that I might not be seeing? And what might Hashem see in about me that I might not be seeing? And with that, our Yom Tov could be something so opening, transformational, so enlightening and insightful for us that it truly does transform us. And that as we go into Yom Tov, it's not same old. It's a Yom Tov like none we've ever had before. Ksiva v'chasima tova to you, a good Yom Tov. I hope I see you all well many times still before Yom Tov, learn together and I know opportunities to be together. But for those who I won't see, have a wonderful Yom Tov, a wonderful Rosh Hashanah, a time of noticing, a time of being aware, a time of opening one's eyes. We say every morning, we say the bracha of Pokeach Ivrim. What does that mean? We say it at the time of God opening our eyes from sleep, but it means Pokeach comes from the word Pikeach, to make a person smart. But make me smart by seeing what I didn't see before. That's the Pokeach, that's the Pikchut. I don't want to be smart in my own eyes. I want to be smart through my own eyes. I want to be smart not because I'm blind to the things around me, but I want to be smart because I'm able to notice that which I've never noticed before. And each day, each day I'll notice something. I'll notice something in the Gemara. I'll notice something in the Siddur. I'll notice something in myself. I'll notice something in you that I've never noticed before. And I'll build on that and develop that so that my Yom Tov is something super special.